Hi, welcome to the virtual session of using social media responsibly, safe social media. I'm actually currently in Malta and the internet isn't working, which is why you're watching this video, or we might just be watching it anyway because it's so good. My name is Pen Lister, for those who don't know. I'm here to just chat a little bit about using social media without betraying all your personal secrets or risking your job. I think currently the university is putting together some sort of policy or policies. It's a very complicated area. But then on the other hand, I think common sense is your main guide. So I'm just going to chat through a few things. First of all, people might be guided to look at the e-learning matrix entry, staying safe with social media. You may as well just go to the home page and type in the title in the search bar. You'll probably find it, hopefully. Staying safe with social media. Now I cover a few things in this session generally, and we get some very interesting conversation going. Sometimes we touch stuff like work-life balance, technical skills that might be required. And then we talk about other things like demographic limitations and issues. First of all, I just wanted to talk about the general perception of social media is that it's just for teenagers who organise their parties. Now, it probably isn't and hasn't been for a long time. We have to remember that Facebook, which is by far the most popular social network for everybody, although there are professional networks that probably go on more on Twitter or LinkedIn, but as a general rule, Facebook far outweighs, in statistical terms, all the others. It's probably bigger than all the others put together. It reached its billionth user quite recently, the end of last year. No, I think Facebook's largest demographic increase group is the over 55s, which is interesting. But of course it's a hugely versatile tool that can be put to any and all kinds of purposes. Now the problem with people online generally, and particularly in social networks, is they're not used to it. They're novices. I mean, I'm probably less of a novice than many people because my subject area is web and multimedia, and I've been online probably continuously since about, I don't know, 1998. So in internet years, I'm probably about 90 by now. And you do learn by experience. So, I started with blogging and then went all the way through sharing RSS feeds, and contributing, commenting to other people's material and engaging in conversations. And you absolutely do learn what you should be saying and what you shouldn't be saying, and how you say things. And so I think all these considerations, we'll run through a few in a minute, but we can use the web page that I've just guided you to, Staying Safe with Social Media, as a kind of rough map of what we're thinking about today. So if you look at that first paragraph there, social media is just for fun, right? Well, not really, actually. It can be, but it's for all these other purposes: sharing information, developing informal learning communities, all sorts of things, really, all sorts of things. Now, when you partake in a conversation, it's very easy to say the wrong thing, and you can never tell who else is actually listening unless you actually really know everybody who's in that small group. Often in Facebook, you're dealing with groups of several thousand or even hundreds of thousands of people potentially looking at what you're saying and potentially also taking exception to what you've just said. And there are countless examples of this, which I'm sure we all know, so it's pointless really giving any. Where you might say something that to you seems logical and quite ordinary, but to someone else might be quite offensive. So it's a bit like when we think about accessibility and usability online, where we have to consider a lot of other types of people. And we have to think about providing, or in this case, taking into account a lot of other sensitivities. Gender bias, ethical and cultural issues are particular ones. Age perceptions, which can be different between generations, all kinds of things. And I just list here on the webpage, I'm looking at it, that's why I'm pointing over there. You can have a number of results from something that you shouldn't have said. Your friend can unfriend you on Facebook. You can incur the wrath of the recipient by them starting to say unpleasant things about you. Now, this is a problem because you can't control what they're going to say. And they might say, well, actually, Pen is a really unpleasant person. She says all kinds of unpleasant things about me in class or whatever it might be. And you can't actually control that. All you can do is counter that. So the greatest way to avoid that whole scenario is to avoid it altogether by thinking about all these issues and take them into account beforehand. There are more serious implications to what can happen to you. If you mislead somebody and you are actually representing an organisation, in this case London Met, or another university, if somebody else is watching this, you actually potentially could get into quite serious legal hot water. If you mislead somebody, even unintentionally, no amount of saying, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean that. If it's a serious thing like the deadline for this coursework is, or you need to apply for this degree by, or you will be studying such and such in this degree, titled whatever, and it's not true or it's inaccurate, that can lead to quite problematic ramifications. You might lose your job. You might be sued. You might be sued as an individual. Remember that in the end, when we use technology, we are as much personally liable as any way that the university could protect us. They can only protect us to a small extent, if at all. Just saying you don't know, like in any other aspect of law, is not an excuse. You must be very careful about what you say about people in terms of libelous or slanderous things. I don't know such and such. Now, we've all read the stuff about slagging off your boss on Facebook. Now, you're not necessarily going to do that, because you'd really have to be an idiot to do that. But I think saying peculiar things about people by name is an absolute no-no. You just don't do that. One of the rules of thumb that we developed in Social Met earlier on, Social Met, for those that don't know, is an independent feedback network for people in academia, particularly London Met, but other people are part of that network, to discuss academic life, all aspects of it. And one of the rules I've had with my student team right from the word go is no names, no module codes. If you want to talk about something that's going on or gone on in somebody's module, you make sure that you don't mention accurate details, but you talk about it as a general thing, like they would on the radio or on the television. They're always very careful to not talk about a specific instance, and it's for the same reasons. So imagine you're on television and you're all right, And of course, there's the risk of looking a complete fool. Recently, I was out on a leaving do with some colleagues, good colleagues, people I've known for a long time. And we all have different sort of personalities, but we've known each other for years, so there's a fundamental trust. And we behave silly, and even though we're grown-ups and we've got proper jobs, everybody's allowed to be silly, aren't they? Anyway, I took some photographs because I'm renowned for taking photographs. And I try not to take anything that's really incriminating, because obviously I'm not a fool, and I wouldn't want that of me. And I'm quite flamboyant, possibly. So, I've got quite a wide range of what I'd allow, but I wouldn't allow me tottering around drunk or whatever. Anyway, I took some pictures of somebody. I won't describe what they were, but I didn't think they were too bad. But my colleague didn't like them at all. I posted them up on Facebook along with lots of other photographs of this night, because they were all lovely, informal. We all looked happy, and it was lovely. And there was no problem with the rest of them. There was just these 3 photographs. and I tagged my colleague, because they're on Facebook. Anyway, I got this email. Can you take them down, please? I don't look great in those. So this colleague's, and note I'm making sure I'm not saying him or her, this colleague's notion of what was correct for them or acceptable for them was very different to mine. Now that's a perfect example of what you need to constantly be thinking about. And you can never be perfect, and it can never always be great, and you never encounter any of those situations, but you need to act very quickly. If it's text that's gone out and been reshared, then you need to share other information. Hey, I really didn't mean such and such, so if I've caused offence, I really apologise. Or if you've shared wrong information, you need to correct yourself really quickly and flag up your mistake very, very quickly. So kind of speed is everything. I must say, actually, and this is again just following through the quick guide general information that's on that webpage. While I'm saying all of this, and you've got to play safe, being dull is not what I'm saying, because being dull will be a killer. Nobody wants a dull social media experience. The same way, if you go for a coffee with somebody, you don't want people to be super formal the whole time, because you're just not going to go for a coffee with them again, are you? No, you want to be normal. So I think you need to find your own way in terms of the atmosphere. I think social media that's very formal is a big turn-off. People don't want, they speak with their feet, or in this case, they're typing. They don't take part. And so if you want a vibrant active page, or whatever channel, Twitter channel, or whatever it might be, then you need to be entertaining, informative, a reason for people to want to take part, encourage people in the community to interact with each other, and just facilitate and monitor in an open and common sense kind of way, very respectful. I think some of the best terms that I've ever seen in a social media setting or a social context are the Vimeo video. The Vimeo video channel has fantastic terms, which we appropriated, probably illegally, for social media, because there's about four lines, for social met rather, there's about 4 lines, be nice, don't underestimate the amount of work this takes to keep this going, that sort of thing, just common sense stuff. Now, having said don't be dull and be friendly and be human, there's the next bit on the web page is, the next heading is, like I'm every student's best mate, right? Yeah, okay. No, that's not what you're doing. I've had criticism about this ever since I started to talk to colleagues about using social media way back in 2009, and one of the biggest criticisms was from members of staff. In fact, it was at the Learning Teaching Conference 2009, and it was, oh, you just want to be their mate. No, I'm old enough to be their mother. I don't like admitting that, but I am. So it isn't about being someone's mate. I don't like their music. I probably don't like the majority of your music either, people who are watching this, but whatever. So I'm not looking to go out to pubs with them. It's not about that. It's just about open, collegiate, but an informal setting. I always talk about it as a level playing field. It is staff and students and other people who are interested talking in an open way. Yeah, I referred earlier to social media policy that's been developed, I think, by ISS and marketing. Now, I'm not sure whether that's going to cover much to do with teaching and learning. Potentially at first not. What I've done in the meantime, and I started it last year with Cecile, and referred to some of John Cook's work and others, as well as a lot of material from other universities. I've actually developed something that you can download from that webpage. If we just call it up, just hang on a second. Yeah, social media guidelines, and it's got a social media best practice. And then I've also got some areas that I think need to be further developed and thought about, and we just whiz through some of those things. First of all, I deal with social media use and context. Before engaging in work-related social media, it's advised that staff obtain permission of the line manager. I think you do need to let people know that you're doing it if you're doing it in connection with work. The guide applies to all users of social media, potentially even personal, because you are known as an employee of London Met in the wider community, probably. So I think thinking that you can have a personal channel and it's full of mad, crazy stuff, and your work channel is somehow this kind of immune, separate thing, is wrong. And I would encourage you seriously to not have that perception, because that's not really how it works. You're bound to share people in your friend network, in which case things will get shared, no matter what you do in your privacy settings. It may be that if you shut everything down, you would be protected, but in the end that defeats the point of having social media channels, doesn't it really? And it says also here, just a quick proviso, all users of social media should follow the same ethical standards that London Met employers would otherwise follow. And again, that refers to what I said earlier. You need to have cultural and gender sensitivity, religious faith sensitivity, all the rest of it. So the best practice starts with don't tell secrets. If somebody has said to you something about, 17 degrees are going to be remodelled in the next 5 minutes or whatever, you don't say that on social media. I mean, you just don't. Yeah. Likewise, if somebody says something quite personal to you, I've decided to take early retirement because, you don't share that. Now, it's not a lie, but you don't. It is a secret, yes. Protect your own privacy. We've just talked briefly about that. I think in the real workshops there is a bit more discussion about privacy settings, particularly in Facebook, but then in general. But I think your best privacy setting is your common sense. Be honest, as in just now I said don't lie. Don't lie. Don't make things up. People can spot that, just the way they can in real life. Respect copyright laws. Now, I think this is something that we touch on in quite a few different sessions that we do in CELT, and I'm developing a bunch of resources in conjunction with what our libraries provide, and then stuff that reflects the wider online setting that we find ourselves in. So hopefully that will be useful. Respect your audience, London Met, and your colleagues. That goes back to what I've just said about sensitivity. Controversial issues. Now this is an interesting one. If you see something online about London Met or about some degree that we're doing or something that you think is inappropriate or wrong, it's absolutely correct for you to talk about that and to correct it in a factual and accurate way. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, it's good that you would do it to contest what's being spread. But getting into a slanging match about it with anybody is completely inappropriate. So stick to the facts and be nice if you want to correct things that you feel are factually wrong and you get your own facts correct. Don't step in until you know that what you're saying is correct. Another thing, be the first to respond to your own mistakes, just like I said a minute earlier. Always think about the consequences. There's a good example that I've put in this document. Consider what might happen if a London Met University employee is in a meeting with a prospective or current student, a competitor institution or a prospective business partner, and someone pulls out a printout of your blog. And it says, this person at London Met University says that this degree or project or staff member is rubbish. And by the way, of course, blogs do count in this context of social media. It isn't really social media, but it kind of is, because it's online, in perpetuity, publicly available. So saying degree X needs to have an easier learning curve for the first year student is fine. But saying degree X is rubbish is risky, unsubtle and amateurish. Once again, it's about judgment. Using your blog to trash or embarrass London Met University or staff or students or your colleagues is dangerous and ill-advised. You can actually tread into libel or slander. Even if you thought it was funny, it doesn't matter what you thought. Disclaimers. Many social media users include a prominent disclaimer saying who they work for, but that they're not speaking officially. This is good practice, and is encouraged, but don't count on it to avoid trouble. It may not have much legal effect. Don't forget your day job. It's very easy to get very carried away, especially if some of us are extremely eloquent, not me personally, but I can think of staff I know who are fantastically eloquent, erudite, and they can wax lyrical about all sorts of things. Don't forget you've got all that marking to do and all those module specs to write, all that attendance to put in. Social media is really fun, you see, so it can become very diverting. There are applications you can use to manage multiple social media channels, and I'll probably develop a session in coming months to do with making use of Hootsuite or TweetDeck and these kinds of applications to help with those sorts of issues. Yeah. You know, I've listed out a few areas, social media additional policy areas for development. There's the marketing one, how we fit in with marketing, what they do in relation to what we do. Then there's the teaching and learning, best practice, design, approach, language, posting, liabilities, responsibilities, engaging students informally, facilitation and monitoring, how you do all those things. International issues, staff personal responsibility, student personal responsibility. And then we go down to the real heavy stuff, legal issues, admin controllers and ownership, backing up and archiving of data. I think Malcolm, going on my previous conversations with him, is extremely keen that we archive all material that goes on in social media for precisely the reasons I've talked about at the beginning, the legal aspects and the ramifications that can happen when incorrect information is shared, or misleading, or whatever. You said this, well, did I? Well, that was 16 months ago, how do I remember? It's probably quite important to develop some sort of archiving mechanism. Because, of course, all the time we're sharing material about London Met, we are actually creating bigger and bigger web of London Met presence in search engines across the internet. And so that's a public face that's attached directly to London Met. And that can be used for really good purposes of showcasing the great work that we're all doing. For me, good practice and purposes and ways of doing things in social media is a continuing big interest. I've been doing this now for quite a long time. I've been on Facebook since 2007. I've been a blogger since about 2003. So I've built up a considerable experience, both of things that went wrong as well as good things. So I would hope that I can build on that knowledge and expand that with interacting with colleagues and to find out more about what they're doing. And we can develop our best practice so that it maybe has case studies attached to it and so forth. Anyway, I hope that's all been of interest, and please get some questions. I think there's going to be some sort of commenting that I've attached to a web page, so get those questions in there. Or if you thought I talked an absolute load of rubbish, try and say it nicely. Okay, thanks for now, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference, and I've certainly enjoyed making this video, because it's always fun, isn't it, making a bit of video. And I hope to see you all soon when I'm back from my my study holiday leave. Okay, bye for now.